There is a battle raging inside you. A battle not fought with swords, not waged on open fields, but within the silent corridors of your own mind. It is the war of hesitation, the endless replay of possibilities, the ceaseless storm of, what if? You pace through life not because chains hold your feet, but because doubts imprison your spirit. And while you wait for clarity, while you wait for perfect certainty, your life quietly slips away. This is the tragedy of overthinking. It feels intelligent. It feels responsible. It even disguises itself as wisdom, but in reality it is fear in costume. Overthinking is not a guardian of your future. It is the thief of your destiny. And if you do not break free, if you do not learn to trust the plan already written for you, you will end your days not with the satisfaction of a life lived, but with the agony of what could have been. Napoleon Hill once said, "When faith replaces doubt, when self-confidence replaces fear, when dreams replace limitations, that is when greatness is born." Yet most people never experience this transformation because they spend their lives drowning in analysis. They circle the decision, they dissect every risk, they demand to see the entire staircase before daring to climb the first step. And so they stay where they are, prisoners of hesitation. Look at the greats of history. Did Thomas Edison wait for the guarantee of success before he burned his fingers on thousands of failed experiments? Did Abraham Lincoln wait until he knew the nation could endure before he stepped into the presidency? Did Walt Disney sit in silence, calculating every risk, waiting for certainty before daring to dream of kingdoms built on imagination? No. They moved, they trusted, they believed in the unseen. And because they did, their names carved themselves into history. The disease of overthinking kills silently. It whispers, wait until you're ready. Wait until you're certain. Wait until the conditions are perfect. And yet, the conditions are never perfect. Read the biographies of Carnegie, Ford, Rockefeller, every giant of industry. Not one of them began with certainty. They began with faith. They moved with vision. They trusted that providence, God, infinite intelligence, call it what you will, would provide the rest. Faith is the bridge between where you stand and where you are meant to go. Overthinking burns that bridge before you ever cross it. Faith is the seed that grows into harvest. Overthinking digs up the seed every morning to see if it has sprouted yet, killing it before it has a chance to live. Faith whispers, move forward, the way will appear. Overthinking insists, stand still until the entire map is revealed. But destiny never hands you the map. It only gives you the next step. Consider the river. It does not question every rock in its path. It does not pause to debate whether the ocean is real. It flows. It surrenders to the pull greater than itself. And because it surrenders, it carves valleys, moves mountains, sustains life. That is the power of trust. But what do most of us do? We dam the river with hesitation. We block the flow with doubt. We wonder why our lives feel stagnant, when the truth is, we are the ones refusing to let go. Understand this: trust is not weakness. Trust is not passively waiting for miracles to drop into your lap. Trust is disciplined action guided by faith. It is working as if everything depends on you, while believing as if everything depends on God. It is the balance that made Edison unstoppable, Ford relentless, Hill immortal. It is the force that turns invisible visions into physical reality. So ask yourself, how many doors in your life have remained locked, not because God kept them shut, but because you never turned the handle? How many dreams remain unborn, not because you lack the talent, but because you drown them in doubt? How many years have you wasted in the prison of overthinking? And here is the sobering truth: you do not get those years back. But you do get this moment. You do get today. You do get this chance to say, no more hesitation, no more fear, no more circling the same decision endlessly while my life wastes away. I will trust, I will move, I will believe. And when you do, when you finally trust God's plan fully, you will discover something astonishing. Life begins to align. Opportunities appear you could not have planned. People arrive you could not have scheduled. Doors swing open you could not have forced. This is not coincidence. This is the reward of faith. This is the fruit of trust, because trust unlocks what overthinking never will. But here lies the paradox: most people think trust is waiting. They confuse faith with passivity. They sit still, praying for a sign, while the years slip by unnoticed. Trust is not waiting for the perfect wave. It is stepping into the current, knowing the tide will carry you. Trust is not sitting idle with folded hands. It is moving with boldness, knowing that providence meets you in motion, not in hesitation. Think of the farmer. He does not demand to know the exact date the rain will come before planting the seed. He does not overthink the mysteries of the soil he sows. He waters. He waits. And because he trusts the law of the harvest, he reaps in due season. But if he delayed until he had full certainty, he would starve. Faith, then, is as practical as farming. Without trust, there is no sowing, no harvest, no future. Look at Henry Ford. The world mocked him when he dreamed of a car for the common man. Experts said it was impossible, foolish, unnecessary. He could have drowned in their ridicule, overthought every criticism, silenced himself with endless doubt. But Ford trusted the vision God planted in him. He acted with courage, and the Model T transformed the world. Overthinking would have killed his dream before it began. But trust made him a legend. Walt Disney, too. Fired from a newspaper for lacking creativity, bankrupt multiple times, ridiculed for imagining a kingdom of castles and laughter. He could have surrendered to hesitation, analyzing every setback, replaying every insult. But he trusted the dream. He trusted that the vision within him was not an accident. And because he trusted, millions of children step into worlds that were once only in his imagination. Understand this: when you overthink, you block the channel through which divine intelligence flows. You cannot hear inspiration when your mind is crowded with fear. You cannot receive guidance when you are busy rehearsing failure. But when you quiet the noise and trust, ideas appear, clarity comes, doors open. This is why Hill declared that faith is the eternal elixir that gives life power and action to the impulse of thought. Without it, thought dies in silence. With it, thought becomes destiny. Consider Abraham Lincoln. Surrounded by division, uncertainty, and war, he did not know how the story would end. He had no guarantee that the Union would hold. But he trusted that the cause was just. He trusted that sacrifice would not be in vain, and he acted with conviction. History remembers not because he had certainty, but because he had faith. This is the lesson: the most extraordinary lives are built not on clarity, but on trust. Certainty is the crutch of the timid. Faith is the weapon of the bold. And you, where do you stand? Do you stand among the timid, circling the same decision 1,000 times, paralyzed by the fear of failure? Or will you step into the ranks of the bold, those who move even when afraid, those who trust even without proof, those who act even when they do not see the path? Hesitation is the silent assassin of destiny. It kills without sound. It robs without warning. It convinces you that you have more time, more chances, more tomorrows. But one day you will wake up, and tomorrow will not come. One day the opportunity you delayed will be gone forever, and all that will remain is the bitter taste of regret. But trust is liberation. Trust is the courage to leap when your legs are trembling. Trust is the decision to act while others wait. Trust is the strength to move, not because you see the finish line, but because you believe it exists. Think of the Wright brothers. No money, no status, no backing from the powerful. Just two men in a bicycle shop with a dream of flying. They could have overthought every danger, every doubt, every impossibility. They could have convinced themselves that man was never meant to leave the ground. But instead, they trusted the vision. They trusted the unseen laws of aerodynamics, the whispers of imagination, the pull of destiny. And because they trusted, humanity touched the sky. Every advancement, every invention, every leap forward in history, at its root, it is trust. Trust in an idea, trust in a calling, trust in a plan greater than the fear of failure. Overthinking produces nothing but wasted years. Trust produces miracles. And so I ask you, how long will you circle the same decision? How many more nights will you spend rehearsing disasters that will never come? How many blessings will you delay because you are too afraid to move? The truth is harsh but clear. Life does not wait for the overthinker. It rewards the man or woman of trust. When you trust, you move differently. You walk with a power that others can feel. Your words carry conviction. Your actions carry momentum. You become magnetic because the world itself bends toward those who act in faith. Opportunities attach themselves to courage. Doors open for movement. Blessings arrive for those who believe. Overthinking keeps you in the dark. Trust sets you ablaze. There is a strange irony in life. The very mind that was designed to be your greatest servant often tries to become your master. It whispers questions meant to paralyze you. What if you fail? What if they laugh? What if you are not enough? And so you rehearse the worst case scenario until your spirit suffocates under its weight. But the truth is simple. Failure is never the enemy. Fear of failure is. The man who tries and stumbles is infinitely ahead of the man who overthinks and never begins. History has no record of the doubter who sat still, waiting for certainty. It only remembers the men and women who acted with trust, even when shadows covered the road ahead. Thomas Edison once said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." Imagine if he had overthought, replaying every unsuccessful attempt as a prophecy of doom. Imagine if he had decided that the world's darkness was permanent. But Edison trusted that light would break through. He trusted the unseen law of persistence, and that trust illuminated the world. Trust does not mean absence of struggle. Trust means you wrestle with uncertainty and still move. Trust means you feel fear in your chest, but still take the step. Trust means you admit you do not know how it will all unfold, yet you advance anyway. Every great leader, every titan of industry, every dreamer who shifted history lived by this principle. Andrew Carnegie built an empire not because he saw every detail of the future, but because he trusted that his purpose was larger than his fear. He invested in men like Napoleon Hill because he trusted that philosophy could change more lives than steel alone. When you live with trust, you begin to see challenges differently. The setback is not a sign of doom. It is proof that you are in motion. The obstacle is not punishment. It is preparation. The delay is not rejection. It is redirection. But only the man of trust can see this. The overthinker sees disaster. The faithful see destiny. This is why trust is so rare, because it demands surrender. And surrender terrifies the ego. We want control. We want guarantees. We want to hold the entire blueprint in our hands before we lay the first brick. But life does not work this way. Faith is the currency. Trust is the language. Movement is the proof. Think of a seed buried in the soil. It does not argue with the darkness. It does not complain that it cannot see the sun. It trusts the process. It grows roots before it grows branches. It reaches downward before it reaches upward. And when the time is right, it breaks through the ground in triumph. But what if the seed overthought? What if it refused to grow because it feared the unknown? It would remain buried forever, never discovering its purpose. You too are a seed. You are not planted in your circumstances to remain underground. You are planted to rise. But rising requires trust. Let me speak plainly, you will never have every answer. You will never remove every risk. You will never silence every critic. The overthinker spends life trying and dies without beginning. The man of trust steps forward in imperfection and finds that the path builds itself beneath his feet. This is why Scripture says, "Lean not on your own understanding." Your mind cannot always comprehend the architecture of God's plan. It is too vast, too interconnected, too divine. You see only fragments, he sees the whole. And when you trust, you begin to act with the confidence of one who knows he is not alone in his labor. When you trust, creativity is released. Energy multiplies. Your decisions become decisive, your movements fluid, your spirit unshakable. You are no longer burdened by the need to know everything. You are carried by the conviction that you are guided. Look at Nelson Mandela. 27 years in a prison cell. He could have overthought every day, why me? What will happen to my people? Will I die here forgotten? But Mandela trusted that even chains could not destroy destiny. He trusted that freedom was possible, even if he did not know when. And because he trusted, his release was not the end of a man, but the beginning of a movement that shook the world. Or consider Martin Luther King Jr., marching through streets filled with hate. He could not see every step of the journey. He did not know how long it would take. But he trusted the dream placed inside him. He trusted that a moral arc bends toward justice. And because he trusted, he moved. And because he moved, nations shifted. You must understand, overthinking will keep you small, but trust will make you eternal. Overthinking ties you to the ground, but trust gives you wings. Overthink keeps you analyzing footprints. Trust sets you walking your own path. So when the fear rises, and it will, ask yourself, will I trust or will I delay? Will I act or will I retreat? Will I believe or will I overthink? Because your future depends on this choice. Not tomorrow, today. Every moment you spend in hesitation is a moment stolen from your destiny. Every second you waste overthinking is a second you could have spent building, moving, creating, living. Time does not pause for doubt. It marches forward, indifferent to your hesitation. And one day you will realize that the opportunity you feared was the very key to the life you prayed for. Do not let it slip. Trust, Move. Begin. There comes a point in every life when the choice is no longer theoretical. It is a crossroad staring you in the face. You will either remain a prisoner of thought or become a warrior of trust. And this decision will not be made once, it will be made daily. Every morning when you rise, the voices will compete for your allegiance. One whispers, wait, delay, analyze, retreat. The other whispers, step forward, even if you cannot see the ground. This is the secret. Success is not built on perfect clarity. Success is built on consistent courage. The man who waits for every detail is like the sailor who demands the entire map of the ocean before leaving the shore. The sea will never fully reveal itself. You only discover its pathways by launching into the waves. Henry Ford did not wait until the automobile was guaranteed to succeed. He did not wait until every critic silenced their doubts. He trusted a vision that others mocked. He trusted that men would abandon the horse and embrace the machine. He trusted the unseen law that innovation rewards those who dare. And because he trusted, he moved. And because he moved, an industry was born. Trust is the birthplace of progress. Trust is the soil in which vision takes root. Without trust, discipline dries up. Without trust, action paralyzes. Without trust, resilience collapses. For why would you endure suffering if you did not trust that reward was possible? Why would you sacrifice sleep, comfort, and security if you did not trust that tomorrow could be greater than today? And here is the paradox. Trust grows strongest not in times of ease, but in times of darkness. It is in your midnight hour when trust is tested. It is when the money runs low, when the friends disappear, when the road closes. That is when the question thunders in your spirit. Do you still trust? Abraham Lincoln knew this test well. He faced defeat after defeat, failed businesses, lost elections, personal tragedy. By the logic of overthinking, he should have surrendered. Every calculation said the odds were impossible. But Lincoln trusted that his purpose was not finished. He trusted that his voice could still serve the Union. He trusted that the struggle itself was preparation. And in time, trust carried him from obscurity to the presidency, where his resolve preserved a nation. This is why trust is more than belief. Trust is action under uncertainty. It is faith applied to motion. It is conviction translated into steps. The overthinker prays for answers but never leaves the chair. The man of trust prays for guidance and then moves his feet. The overthinker requires proof before he acts. The man of trust understands that proof only comes after the action. You see, trust is not passive. Trust does not mean folding your arms and waiting for the heavens to drop blessings into your lap. No, trust is rolling up your sleeves, working with what you have, while believing that what you lack will arrive in due time. Trust is planting seeds in faith, even when the soil looks barren. Trust is swinging the hammer each day, believing that the wall will one day give way. Consider Walt Disney, fired from a newspaper for lacking imagination. Bankrupt multiple times, laughed at for his dream of an amusement park. If Disney had overthought, the castle would never have been built. But he trusted. He trusted the vision planted in his heart. He trusted that children and families would gather around a dream. He trusted that ridicule was not final. And today the world still echoes with the magic of his trust. Your own life demands the same. You may not see the entire staircase. You may not understand why doors closed. You may not know when the breakthrough will arrive. But your responsibility is not to see the whole. Your responsibility is to take the next step. Each step you take in trust is a declaration. I am not a prisoner of fear. I am not a slave to hesitation. I am a vessel of divine timing, and I will move when called. And something miraculous happens when you live this way. Obstacles transform. What once looked like a wall reveals itself as a door. What once appeared as a loss becomes a lesson. What once seemed like rejection becomes protection. The universe bends toward the man who refuses to freeze. Do not misunderstand. This is not reckless faith. Trust is not ignoring reality. It is embracing reality with a higher lens. Trust does not deny the storm. It declares that storms cannot cancel destiny. Trust does not pretend the mountain is small. It proclaims that the mountain is climbable. Your enemies will always be the same: fear, doubt, and delay. But your weapons are greater trust, action, and resilience. With these, you become unstoppable. Picture the farmer in the field. He tills the ground, plants the seeds, waters the soil. He cannot control the rain. He cannot control the sun. But he trusts that if he does his part, nature will do hers. This is the essence of trust. You handle the effort, God handles the outcome. So let me ask you, are you still waiting for certainty? Are you still bargaining with destiny, saying, show me the guarantee and then I will move? If so, understand this: certainty never comes first. Only movement reveals it. Think back to every defining moment of your life. Was clarity present at the start, or did clarity emerge only after you acted? The job you took, the relationship you entered, the dream you pursued, none of these came with absolute proof. But once you moved, once you trusted, the way began to unfold. This is the pattern of the universe. This is the law written into the fabric of creation. Trust, then act, act, then see. The overthinker says, when I know, I will go. The man of destiny says, because I go, I will know. So the decision stands before you now. Will you keep rehearsing your fears, circling the same doubts, replaying the same hesitations? Or will you finally decide to trust, to place your faith not in the illusion of control, but in the certainty of purpose? Because the world does not need more thinkers of fear. The world needs movers of faith. And make no mistake, your time is not unlimited. Every day of hesitation is a day of trust wasted. Every hour of overthinking is an hour stolen from your future. If you delay too long, life will move on without you. But if you trust fully, completely, without reservation, you will step into the flow of a plan far greater than your imagination. And that is where destiny lies. There is a moment, every great man, every great woman has faced it, when the noise becomes unbearable, when the mind screams for certainty, when the heart trembles in doubt, when the path seems too heavy to continue. And it is in that exact moment that history divides the ordinary from the extraordinary. The ordinary surrender. They bow to the weight of questions. They retreat into hesitation, convincing themselves that safety is wisdom. But the extraordinary, they stand tall in the chaos. They declare, I will trust even here. I will move even now. I will believe even when the evidence is against me. And that single declaration transforms the course of a life. This is the truth Napoleon Hill thundered into the world. When you believe, when you trust, when you refuse to quit, the universe conspires on your behalf. It is not poetry. It is law. It is the hidden engine behind every triumph. Think of it, the Wright brothers trusted the skies before they ever left the ground. Edison trusted the light before the bulb ever shone. Mandela trusted freedom while locked in a cell. And every one of them, through trust, transformed reality. What about you? Will you continue letting overthinking rob your years? Will you keep asking questions that have no answers, wasting your breath on what if and what then while life slips quietly past you? Or will you trust? Trust that you were not placed here by accident. Trust that the vision inside you is not random. Trust that your Creator does not abandon those who dare to move. The choice is now. Not tomorrow, not someday, not when the signs are perfect. Now, the clock does not pause for hesitation. Opportunity does not wait for your comfort. Destiny does not knock twice on the same door. Hear me clearly, you do not need the full map. You only need the courage to take the next step. You do not need the resources of an empire. You need the will to start with what you have. You do not need the applause of the world. You need the trust of your own heart. So rise. Rise above the questions. Rise above the delays. Rise above the prison of overthinking. Step into the arena of action. Declare to your fear, you will not rule me. Declare to your doubt, you will not paralyze me. Declare to your destiny, I trust you, and I will not turn back. And when you live this way, something remarkable begins to happen. The doors that seemed locked begin to open. The people you need begin to appear. The strength you thought was gone returns. The vision you thought was impossible begins to breathe. Trust unleashes the invisible armies of providence, aligning every detail for your favor. But you must take the first step. You must silence the voice of hesitation. You must trade your obsession with certainty for the unshakable power of trust. Because here is the truth you cannot escape: life is short. Your days are numbered. The time you waste in fear will never return. But the time you spend in trust will multiply beyond measure. So let this be your declaration: I will not die with my potential buried inside me. I will not waste my years rehearsing my fears. I will not stand frozen at the edge of opportunity. I will trust. I will move. I will believe. And I will live the life I was created for. The world is waiting. Your future is waiting. And God Himself is waiting for your yes. Say it now with everything in you. I trust, I move, I believe, and nothing will stop me. This is the end of overthinking. This is the birth of destiny. Trust the plan. Walk the path. Fulfill the purpose. And let the world witness what happens when a man, or a woman finally fully, completely trusts